Well, guys, Patricio Pitbull Freire has made a $1 million bet offer to Dana White that he can beat the elite of the UFC, which begged the question to Nick and I, are there any Bellator champions that could contend and possibly beat any of the UFC champions? And we're breaking it down right now. What's up, Barnhill family? Welcome back to the channel. Well, Nick, this is a fun one here.
Yeah.
So I saw the post originally on ESPN MMA's Instagram,
right,
and it all has stemmed from Patricio Pitbull's comment, or a bet rather, to Dana White, saying that he bets Dana White $1 million that he can beat either Alexander Volkanovski or Khabib Nurmagomedov.
Right.
So before we jump into that, you and I were kind of discussing, is there any of the Bellator champions that we believe could contend with or possibly beat any of the UFC champions? Because, you know, we talk all the time about how Bellator has some very talented fighters, and
right,
some of whom we believe to be at the elite levels.
Right.
So what we did was we kind of thought through it, made a list, and let's discuss women first and then men, lightest weight class to heaviest weight class. Are there any Bellator fighters that can beat any UFC fighters? So we'll start with the women's divisions.
Yeah.
They don't have a 115 or a 135 division. They have 125 and 145 only in Bellator.
Mm-hmm. Which makes sense because the UFC started with 115 and 135 females, and then they came in with the 125, 145.
Right.
Now the UFC has since filled those two as well, but I think it was cool because it gave women of different sizes a place to fight.
Definitely, absolutely. And so when you look at 125 that we can compare head to head, you have obviously the Bullet, Valentina Shevchenko versus Ilima-Lei McFarlane. That would be the champ versus champ there. And in this particular matchup, I don't think there's much to see here. No. I think that there's a major disparity in talent and skill level, and I think Valentina would win that fight very easily.
Yeah, I mean, Valentina is 1A best fighter for all the females on all the rosters of any MMA promotion in the world. The only person that gives her trouble is Amanda Nunez, who is the female GOAT, and she's never been able to finish Valentina.
Right.
You know, they fought 8 rounds, a 3-round fight and a 5-round fight. One of them went to split decision, and actually they might have both gone to split decision. Either way, it was a dogfight both times. And if the first fight that was a 3-round fight would have gone 5 rounds, it was trending towards going to Valentina.
Absolutely. You know, and I've always said this, that Valentina, skill-wise, is equally as good or better than Amanda Nunez. The only thing that makes it that takes it to the point where she can't really contend with Amanda is the simple fact that Amanda's just so much larger and so much stronger.
Yeah.
You know, Amanda defends the belt at 135 and 145,
right,
and Valentina competes in 125. She was coming up to 135 because the UFC didn't really have her natural division at the time, which was 125.
Yeah, that shows you how skilled she is. I mean, she was beating everybody at 135 and competing with the female GOAT, Nunez. And I think part of the reason the UFC created the 145 division was because Cyborg, but also they wanted to see what Amanda Nunez could do there. And I think part of the reason they made the 125 division is because they realized that Valentina, although she was beating everybody, was a little bit undersized, and it just made sense. And there was a lot of cool matchups. You know, one comes out to our minds, and we actually did get to see it. Joanna and Valentina had fought before and way earlier in their careers in different sports and promotions, and people wanted to see that as sort of a super fight.
Right.
And we got to see it, and I think 125 is a great home for her. I think when Amanda retires, because when you lose twice to somebody, you generally don't get a third crack at them,
right,
even though of all the fights that have happened like that, you know, Cody Nolov, I don't see him getting a TJ Dillashaw third fight. But
right,
Valentina and Amanda Nunez could fight a third time, and I don't think anybody would be angry about it.
Speaking of Amanda Nunez, the only other female fight that you could put on head-to-head would take place in the women's 145 division, and that would seed the rematch Amanda Nunez versus Chris Cyborg. The first match lasted barely a minute. Does this go any differently in your mind? Have we already seen this, and can we say Amanda wins again?
Yeah, so that's one of the things I love about MMA is we've got these dream matchups, right? Half of them we've already seen. We you know, and not to say we don't want to see them again, but we do know what happens when Amanda Nunez fights Chris Cyborg. I don't think that we would get the exact same outcome, an early finish, Maybe Chris Cyborg would do some things to correct herself. But all in all, I do see Amanda Nunez beating Chris Cyborg anytime they do fight, or if this dream matchup cross-promotion thing happens, which I don't think will. I think Amanda still wins.
I will take full credit for predicting Amanda was going to win that fight by knockout before it happened, and I took a bunch of crap from a bunch of people saying that I didn't know what the heck I was talking about.
If we would have been making videos back then, they would have sounded off in the comments.
Including at the barbershop. I said, listen, Amanda Nunez is what Chris Cyborg is, except more precise. Amanda Nunez has the power knockout punches that Chris Cyborg has, except she delivers them in a way that's not so spastic and all over the place and leaving herself exposed. Amanda Nunez, if she connects with Chris Cyborg or anybody for that matter, is going to sleep. And I said, I think what's going to happen is you're going to see Chris Cyborg bull rush her, with that sort of reckless abandon, and Amanda's going to be able to deliver her crisp, precise shot, which is literally exactly what happened. So I won't take credit. I wish we had been doing videos back then. That's all I'll say. But moving to that, so I don't think that goes any differently. I think Amanda wins again.
Yeah.
So for the women's division, I don't think Bellator has any fighter that is a champion that could potentially beat one of the UFC champions. I think it's a clean sweep there.
Yeah, for the females for sure. And I will say that if you go strength of roster, you can kind of wash your hands, but there's nothing to see there. Bellator is a great organization. I love the fights that they put on. They don't have the depth that the UFC has. If you go top 10 versus top 10 in all the divisions, UFC is going to win in crazy fashion. But the champions in Bellator, they have made a case, for most of them at least, for being contenders and could probably give some problems to some of the UFC champs.
Absolutely. So moving on to the men, they don't have a 25 division in Bellator. Right. They start at 135. So let's start there. 135, the UFC current sitting champion is Peter Yan.
Yeah.
And so Juan Archuleta, our friend Juan, is going to be taking on Patchy Mix to determine the champion there. Since Juan is our friend, and admittedly we're a little biased, I think Juan is going to win that fight. So let's operate under the assumption that the fight were to be Juan Archuleta versus Peter Yan. Who wins that fight?
And that's the thing, is I'm a bit of a biased picker when it comes to fights, especially if I know the person, and if they're as nice as a human being can be, like Juan Archuleta. It's hard to bet against him. But Peter Yan is really something special. I think we've got a monster in the 135 division. I think he's going to probably hold on to that belt for a little while. Yeah. And the only thing I'm kind of referring to, and it's not because their last two opponents were Brazilian really, but it's like I look at Pitbull versus Juan, and I look at Aldo versus Peter. Right. So they kind of have
two old school Brazilian fighters, similar styles. Yeah.
Right. And I would venture to say Jose Aldo has done a little bit more in the sport than Patricio Pitbull. Maybe not as of late, but he's a tough night out for everybody. If I had to go who would win that fight tonight if it was happening, I'm probably going to go with Peter Yan, but I do think Juan gives him a lot of trouble with that crazy wrestling that he strings together with that bang Muay Thai, and I think you'd have a very fun fight.
Yeah. Listen, Juan Archuleta is in there in the training room every day with TJ Dillashaw, with Cub Swanson. Aaron Pico was with them for a while.
T-City.
He trains with the best, and people say all the time, gym performance doesn't always translate to cage performance, but people say Juan Archuleta is a tough outing in the gym. Sure. So I think he gives everybody problems, including Peter Yan. But as you said, Peter Yan appears to be the complete fighter right now. Things are really stringing together for him. He's over at Tiger Muay Thai in Thailand for his fight camps, and he's really coming into his own. I hate to say it because I love Juan Archuleta, but I think Peter Yan wins that fight. So I think the UFC takes it in this particular instance.
Yeah. And, who knows? If we see a crazy performance by Juan against Patchy Mix, and it looks like he's improved even more than he already has throughout his career,
maybe we'll change our minds.
Maybe my mind changes, but Peter Yan, just the way he's looked as of recently, it's hard to compete.
He's so good. So here we move into the interesting part, because now we talk about the champion in Patricio Pitbull, who actually was the one who sparked all of this controversy.
$1 million shot caller.
The $1 million shot caller, as Nick says there.
Yeah.
I like that.
I'm a bit of a sloganeer.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Nick comes up with those on his feet.
Yep.
It's pretty crazy. So here we have a very interesting one because styles make matchups, and we have Alexander Volkanovski
Yes.
versus Pitbull. Now, let me just, before we make our predictions here, let me run through Pitbull. He's knocked out Michael Chandler. He's submitted Daniel Strauss. He's defeated Pat Curran. He's a champ right now in Bellator. Now, for Volkanovski, he's obviously beaten Max twice and he's beaten Aldo. Whether or not you believe he actually beat Max, it's up for discussion.
Right.
At least one of the two. So, who wins this fight?
This one, I will say, of all the cross promotion matchups, champ versus champ, this one's probably the most compelling. I do think that if Max Holloway was the current champion right now, he would be too much to handle for Patricio Pitbull. But styles make matchups in MMA, and I think that Volkanovski versus Pitbull is a little bit more of a toss-up as far as the matchup goes. I think they're kind of built similar, right? They're both. I know Patricio Pitbull is the 155 champ, but he looks more like a 145er.
Right.
Max kind of looks like he belongs at 150, but I think he trends a little bit more towards being a good 155er. But Volkanovski looks like a 45er. Patricio Pitbull looks like a 45er, and it's hard to say Volkanovski would lose that one after he's beat arguably the greatest featherweight of all time twice, and then before that, Jose Aldo was the greatest featherweight of all time. Beat him too. So I'm going to go personally with Volkanovski getting his hand raised in that one, but in a tough fight, probably a decision.
So I'm going to disagree on this one. I think Pitbull wins this fight.
Yeah.
So congratulations, Pitbull. I just got you your $1 million. So.
Yeah, that would be something.
But anyways, I think he wins the fight. Like, styles make matchups. This is the right height. Mm-hmm. I think, as you said, I don't know that Pitbull would beat Max Holloway, but I think that his style of really good boxing, excellent jiu-jitsu, experience in there, knocking out people such as Michael Chandler.
Right.
No slight to Volkanovski, but I think that he's the right type of fighter for Patricio to beat. I mean, you think about Michael Chandler, a short, stocky, super strong guy. Mm-hmm. What is Volkanovski? A short, stocky, super strong guy. So I'm picking Pitbull to win this fight, and this is the first one that I'm going to say I think the Bellator champ would beat the UFC champ.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it would be a great fight. And Pitbull really showed us how calculated and patient he is when he was fighting Archuleta and in all of his last fights, Michael Chandler. So I think that would be a high level calculated fight that would for sure go to decision. I
see that decision as well.
Yeah.
So now we move up. We have Pitbull again because he's the champ, as I said, for Bellator.
Yeah, just switch out the characters.
But switch out the character. The dance partner is now, unfortunately for Pitbull, Khabib Nurmagomedov. Not much to see here. What do you
I
think?
can't imagine you think that Pitbull would win that one too.
No, I sure don't. So,
if he does, he gets $5 million.
He deserves more than $1 million if he can do that. I think Dana White, if Pitbull came over and beat Volkanovski, Dana White would say double or nothing.
Yeah, double or nothing. I'll give you $10 million if you could beat Khabib.
10x or nothing. So I mean, I don't even know that we really need to go in depth here. I think Khabib is the most dominant fighter, really, arguably, that there is right now on the planet. Yeah. I think his style would eat Pitbull up.
Yeah, I think he would take him right to the ground. Obviously, Pitbull's a great jiu-jitsu practitioner and just a great mixed martial artist in general. But even though you know exactly what Khabib's going to do, you can't stop it.
And that's what makes him so great. It's like some guys, they disguise what their game plan is. Like Khabib, he literally writes some notes and sends it to your locker room before the fight. 30 seconds in, I'm going to shoot for your legs. And then and it's like, okay, thank you for telling me. Now I know what's going to happen to me. I'm not going to be able to do anything about it.
Right.
But at least I know now.
Yeah, he's like the magician that says, there's nothing up my sleeves. There's nothing in my hat.
Exactly.
He's not bringing any tricks. He's just doing things so well. And it's a lot of people are talking about this Dagestani handcuff now where, Khamzat Chimaev does it a lot. Khabib does it a lot where they hold that arm behind you. tie your legs up with their legs, and they cross your legs. You can go back to the McGregor fight or pretty much any of Khabib's fights or Khamzat Chimaev's fights, and you can see the position. They sit you down up against the wall. They hold your arm behind you, tie your legs up. You've got one arm to defend punches, and you just can't defend your body and your head and hammer fist and all that stuff at once.
No, you can't.
I think Khabib would finish Patricio Pitbull, and probably in a couple of 3 rounds.
I give Pitbull's a veteran. I give him 2 or 3 rounds. He makes it 2 or 3 rounds.
Yeah.
So here's potentially the best fighter on Bellator's roster, in my opinion, Lima, and he's going to be taking on Kamaru Usman. That's a tough outing. I do think this fight. I will say before I give my prediction, which is that Usman wins that fight, I will say that Lima does pose a threat, and he would make this a tougher fight than a lot of people might think. He's a very skilled fighter, and he's very high level all around with his mixed martial arts skills.
Yeah, and I'm drawing a blank on who he fought last, and I wish I could remember, but that knee that he landed, and then ultimately ended the fight. Those types of shots that he can see, and he picks up on opponents trying to drop in on him or take him down. Usman's game is obviously to change levels, take you to the wall, smash your feet, shoulder strike you, do all those things. But it does generally start with a changing of level and dropping down and closing the distance. If he could come up with something cool like a knee, like a strike like that, or a kick, or an uppercut, then maybe we could see some sort of crazy knockout. But if I'm a betting man, I'm going Kamaru Usman. He finishes that, and it's going to be a decision because he just kind of does that. That's
his MO.
And that's one of his things. He's come out as much as to say it. He goes, I don't want to just knock people out in the first round. I want to make it so they don't even want a rematch. And nobody's like, oh, that was a close fight. He beats your ass for five-minute rounds, and then he sends you home, and nobody's even asking for a rematch, except for like people like Colby Covington, who pretty much
contended all the way until the very end there. I agree with you. I think it's a decision win for Usman, but I will say Lima wins at least 1 round.
Yeah,
Lima finds a way to win 1, maybe even 2 rounds, possibly even a split decision. But I think Kamaru wins unanimous decision, 4 rounds to 1.
Too much to handle. Yeah.
So we got now 185, and that's going to be contested between Gegard Mousasi and Douglas Lima.
Right.
So we just talked about Douglas, so let's just operate under the assumption that Mousasi is going to win that fight.
Right. And I'll point out, it shows you, we make such a good point, and everybody kind of realizes this, that the roster versus roster, nothing to see there, UFC is going to take that. But look at some of these guys. They're reoccurring names. Up until last weekend, Ryan Bader, double champ. Douglas Lima contending to be double champ.
Right.
Patricio Pitbull, double champ. So those guys, if you're in an elite level promotion like Bellator is, and you're a double champ, you're a stud.
Yeah,
and you belong at the top of the heap of the UFC no matter what.
Yeah, you're a top level mixed martial artist in your weight class.
Right.
Period. Not just, you don't have to say in your organization, just period.
Right.
So Gegard Mousasi versus Israel Adesanya.
What a fight.
If we're talking about Gegard of like a couple of years ago, man, I can't think of anything more exciting there. But Gegard is such a good striker. I mean, his Dutch kickboxing is phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
And you talk about Israel Adesanya, that's his game, kickboxing. So I think the Gegard Mousasi Israel Adesanya fight is an incredibly fun fight, and it would be an incredibly high level striking match.
Yeah.
But that said, I think at this juncture in their careers, Izzy would be able to get past Gegard. He would probably be able to finish him in the 2nd or 3rd round.
Yeah, I definitely see it going that way. I almost wish that Mousasi would have still been in the UFC when Izzy was the champ, because people would love to see that matchup. And we wouldn't be talking about hypotheticals or dream matchups, because
we would see it.
We would actually probably see it. And he's been on a tear in Bellator, and who knows? Maybe he would. Maybe he wouldn't be in the UFC. But I think that would be a fight that the UFC would like to make, because it would be a fan favorite.
Yeah, absolutely. But I do think Izzy gets
it done, and Izzy knocks him out.
So 205 is interesting, because 205 has just been a game of revolving doors,
changing of the guard, both promotions.
So Vadim Nemkov just looked super dominant. He comes out of Fedor Emelianenko's camp.
Right.
He just dominated Ryan Bader start to finish. He would take on the winner of Dominic Reyes and Jan Blachowicz.
Mm-hmm.
So Vadim Nemkov is, he's a relatively new name.
Right.
Admittedly, I didn't know much about him before his fight with Bader. So why don't we look at, instead of his record, which is not as impressive, let's look at Ryan Bader. Let's look at the guy who he just finished.
Right.
Ryan Bader has beaten Phil Davis.
Right.
He's beaten Rashad Evans. He's beaten King Mo by knockout.
Fedor.
He's knocked out Fedor. He's beaten Matt Mitrione.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Bader is a top-level contender. He was a champ up until just the other night, and Nemkov made easy work of him.
Yeah.
So I think let's just establish the fact that Nemkov is an elite light heavyweight in the world, period, not just in Bellator.
Yeah.
And then he would be taking on Dominic Reyes or Jan Blachowicz. I don't even know how that fight's going to go, so flip a coin or you tell me who wins that fight, and then we'll put them up against Nemkov.
Yeah, MMA math never makes sense. It never
Right.
ends up working out. I was there when Dominic Reyes, according to the fans, the 20,000 people at Toyota Center, thought he beat John Jones. That goes to show you that he is as legit as it gets, especially in the 205 division. Jan Blachowicz is a monster with crazy, crazy Polish power. As of right now, I'm getting my early prediction. We'll get into that later, but I do think that Dominic Reyes gets caught in this fight and Jan becomes the champ.
Really?
That's my early prediction. I might change it, but as of today, right now, I think that's how that one goes. I think Jan has some crazy power, and he's able to put people to sleep in one quick shot. And I don't know. I think it's going to be a great fight, but I do think that's how that happens. I also think that Nemkov is a more competitive matchup for Jan or Dominic than Ryan Bader. Ryan Bader, I respect him. He's a monster. He's great, but he's just part of that older breed. And
yeah.
I think these newer, younger, hungry guys are they're a lot to handle.
They're just more skilled.
They're more skilled, and they're better athletes.
They don't have the miles on them either.
Right, they've also never seen the top of the mountain like Ryan Bader has. He's seen the top of the mountain twice.
Right.
He went over to Bellator, became the champ. Very rare thing to do in this sport.
By the way, I know we're not talking about Bader here, but best move from the UFC to Bellator of all time.
Without a doubt.
For sure.
And I think he'll be a contender, but I would hate to see him lose his next fight, and if it's at heavyweight, lose both of his belts in a matter of 2 fights. That would suck. But I do think that Nemkov would be a bigger threat to Jan or Dominic than Ryan Bader, and I think it would be a
So let's go with let's just say let's operate under your early prediction that it's Jan. Who wins, Nemkov versus Jan?
Jan knocks him out.
Knocks him out. Okay, so Vadim Nemkov, he would lose to Jan Blachowicz by knockout.
Yeah.
I'm going to agree. I tend to agree with that. I think Nemkov has his moments, but I think Blachowicz gets that done.
So who do you have?
By finish.
Who do you have between Reyes and Blachowicz? Early predictions.
Yeah.
These could change.
I'm gonna go with if we're picking who we think is going to win that fight early on, I'm going to go Reyes. I'm going to say Reyes gets it done in a tough matchup and he wins by decision. And then he would beat Nemkov.
Yeah, it's a smart bet to think that fight will go to decision. I bet it'll probably be a knockout. But if you're a betting person, decision, because they know the title's on the line and they're going to play it very safe, as they should.
Yep. So, okay, here we go to heavyweight now. Stipe versus, again, Ryan Bader. Not sure there's much to see here. I hate
nothing to see there.
I hate to say that because I love Ryan Bader. And this sounds like a pile on Ryan Bader, and it's really not.
Yeah,
but,
we're big fans.
Yeah, believe me, I know it doesn't sound like it.
We're also realists.
Yeah, Stipe beats Ryan Bader easily, first round knockout.
Yeah. I don't think there's much to see there. Stipe is the greatest heavyweight of all time. And I don't think there's any signs of him slowing down. I was kind of one of those people that thought maybe him and Daniel would both walk off into the sunset no matter what the outcome of their fight was. It seems like he's still got a lot of fire and a lot of gas left in the tank.
Man, that post-fight interview didn't suggest that whatsoever. Yeah. He's just getting started.
And the waiting in the wing is Francis Ngannou, John Jones, and who he said he's actually interested in fighting because he said he's already beat Francis. What, do you want me to beat him up for 25 more minutes? No, I'm okay, thanks. John Jones, yeah, he's probably going to get the shot, but he might need to do something in between. And what Stipe should do in between, because he said he'd like a new challenge, he said he wants to box. I think we're going to see Stipe box.
Really?
Yeah. I think Stipe, maybe not his next matchup, but one of his next 3 outings will be in a squared circle, and he's gonna box somebody.
Well, he has that Golden Gloves pedigree. Not that that's going to take him to the elite levels. Of the
everybody's granddad is a Golden Glove boxer. If you get down to talking MMA or combat sports.
Breaking down Stipe Miocic versus Tyson Fury is that's a whole different video. But yeah, I mean, if we're talking about MMA and we're talking about the heavyweight Bellator champ versus the heavyweight UFC champ, Stipe wins that easily.
Yeah,
knockout fashion. So Nick, there you have it. You did not pick any Bellator fighters or any Bellator champions to beat any UFC champions.
Whoops. I thought I might, but the UFC is the top of the heap.
Yeah.
They have the best. They have the most depth, and iron sharpens iron. When you're signing up to fight all those guys at the top of the roster every single time you step out there, you're only going to get better and better. And Bellator has great fighters. I like what Bellator is doing with signing young fighters early that haven't been in the UFC, because that's something they did for a long time. And I get it. As a growing business, it made sense to pull some of the people who were towards the end of their careers into their contracts with the UFC, pull them over, use their name to build off. But now they've got their stable of young guys who have never fought in the UFC.
Right.
Your Aaron Picos, your Juan Archuletas, you've got some studs over there. And they don't have to say that they pulled them from the UFC. They didn't gain any traction.
Groomed them.
We built them up. And I think that's smart on their part.
I do too. Bellator is doing some great things. I do have Bellator getting one victory here.
And it's the $1 million shot.
It's
call.
the $1 million man. It's the guy. I mean, if you're going to call the shots, be the guy to back up the talk. So I think Pitbull beats Volkanovski. I think he loses handedly to Khabib, but he's right on one of the two of his call outs there.
Yeah.
So,
and it pays the cost to be the boss.
That's it. Guys, do you agree with us? Are we completely off base? Can any of the Bellator fighters beat any of the UFC fighters? I said 1, Nick said 0. Let us know what you think in the comments. And again, always please like, comment, and subscribe. And follow us where you listen to podcasts. Have a great day, guys.
Take care, friends.